All things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. This is a philosophy I've used not just in my personal life, but in business as well. What this means, all things are good, but not all things are convenient as touching your life and destiny. Every single thing, the Netflix is good, the parties are good, the women are good, but not all of them are convenient, especially at various stages of your life. This is a philosophy that is not just limited to my personal life, but in business as well. I'm in a very fortunate position where first my mind is like a ticking bomb. I have such a barrage of ideas. There are so many things to do. I have to check on this company, this rental property, this listing, the development of my software app, the various reviews, the various testing, the various consecration demand as touching my future goals, the various commits you apply to the future goals. Okay, you learned something today, apply it to that future business. So there are a lot of things that if my day was to be allocated, the full 24 hours was to be allocated in a 30-minute frame, it still wouldn't be enough. Not to talk about marginal time usage, the time you spend on your hygiene, eating, etc. Like it has become so terrible. Even while I'm eating, something is playing in the background. There's some recording, there's some audio I'm listening to. How does this philosophy make for maximum efficiency? How does this philosophy increase my productivity over time? I'll share with you a secret. When you live by the all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient, you begin to filter the bullshit. For instance, at the infancy of my career, I would write every single thing as touching this business. Then when we get to miscellaneous, like the advertising section, I would look up the best advertising company, the various niches, the various platforms that makes for optimal advertising. And when we humans engage in this kind of activity, we reinforce to ourselves psychologically that we are working hard, we deserve this business, we ought to get the funding for this business because we have looked at every department in the business. And eventually, because you truly believe, you will get the desired outcome. But this philosophy counters that narrative because advertising can be delegated. The only reason you engage in those part of the business that is not your stronghold is to reinforce yourself psychologically that you're taking the pain, you're working as hard as possible. But the truth is, all things are lawful, but not all things are convenient. Focus on the aspects only you can do, then delegate every single thing else. Delegation is not necessary for laziness. Delegation is to save you time. Delegation is to help guard your focus. And I've seen various teachings on delegation, and the nucleus of that discourse is effective time management to buy your time back. You hear things like, don't do your own laundry, patronize laundry services, don't cook your food, eat out, or hire a chef. It's a very good perspective, and there's no one right answer. It's only tailored to your needs. You only pick answers that match your needs. So that's the perspective revolving in the internet space because there's no unique information. Every single person just latch it onto a point and distill it with personal anecdotes, but it's still the same information. Here I bring to you a new perspective. The reason you delegate is to guard your time. And you're guarding your time, not just to this philosophy of buying back your time, but you're guarding your time, operating from this philosophy that all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. Majority buy back their time and they feel so guilty. First, they are not used to it, they are unfamiliar, and we as humans detest the unknown. We are rather comfortable in an environment, although it is substandard to what we can get. It's better to be in an unknown substandard terrain as opposed to try something new. It could be worse, it could be better, who knows? So all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. Another thought pattern I want every single one of us to explore is success is as a result of efficient time management. There's a story of two university graduates. At the end of their session, by the time they became graduates, one had read 600 books as a result of self-discipline. The other, nothing. At the end of their life, one was worth $200,000 an hour. The other, $7.50. The storyteller says they were vastly continent apart. Now, the degree as which he achieved that goal, the degree as which he achieved that reading goal is none of our business. But that voracious reading culture was imposed through self-discipline. And this is the problem with average people. They have no value for time. They are individuals who would spend hours of their time on Netflix. In fact, which leads me to the next point, that success is as a result of self-discipline. But self-discipline is unsupervised action. Every single person you know today worked as hard as possible, even when there were nobody cheering for them, nobody in the auditorium, nobody validating their intellect, nobody validating that dream, nobody validating every single effort they put into their work. And which is the problem with society in general today. You take action, first month, second month, third month, fourth month, no success. It looks as the only progress you view is either your gym goals or your intellectual goals, which is not as physical as the material form of success, which every single one of you desire. So you quit, you give up, and you notice something in this moment. When you do not achieve success, you gravitate towards the previous addictions, you gravitate towards the previous lifestyle because it appears as life cheated you. I gave up pornography, I gave up addiction, I gave up XYZ to chase success. I haven't gotten it, so I'll go back to that previous lifestyle to even the score. My friend, is it really failure if you succeed at the end? Think about this. Is it really failure if you succeed at the end? Failure is only when you give up. Failure is only when you give up. If you stop, that means you failed. If you quit, you failed. Quitter can never win. A winner doesn't quit. A quitter doesn't win. A winner doesn't quit. Success is self-discipline. Self-discipline is unsupervised action. Look at the story of David. He attended to the sheep, no supervision. He fought the bear, he fought the lion, irregardless of the absence of encouragement, the absence of prying eyes to validate his strength. Everything is psychological, and we as humans like to be appreciated. In fact, there are various studies that helps teach people to be less selfish and appreciate their employees, their staffs, their wives. We tilt towards criticizing others than appreciating them. So the ratio of appreciation to criticism is highly disproportional. And in a stage, in fact, why most people fail is not as a result of the failure or the absence of the desired outcome. It's more so the absence of appreciation in their efforts, the absence of the external validation of success. That's all it is. In fact, when you gravitate towards material forms of success like the Rolex, the various luxurious cars, it's not the brand you're purchasing. You're purchasing validation. You're purchasing this idea that every single time I got up by 5 a.m., every single day I persevered in spite of the ridicule, in spite of the no, in spite of the fact that my accent was a detriment to the kind of business I subscribed, in spite of the height impediment. I made it. I fucking did it. So all of the externalities you chase is just validation. Learn to manage your time effectively. Do not be like the guy who at the end of his life, an hour is worth $7.50. If you don't know where to start by consuming content. Start by engaging activities that broadens your horizon. Listen to teachings such as this. And this is the knowledge I tapped into unconsciously. At the infancy of my career, uninstalled all my social media platforms, cut all contact, was very serious with my life, grinding 247, and I still am, irregardless of the absence of results, irregardless of the lack of material payments. I still persevered, and that's why I'm monumentally successful. This is the problem with majority. Majority have this flawed idea, this fairy tale mind that success is a product of luck. Well, Elon is just fucking stupid and he's just lucky. Well, I agree with you because in success, there's always a role luck has to play. But if you work the same hours, if you go through the same stringent discipline as Elon, guess what? You would be as successful as him. But majority of you aren't willing to pay the price. Very busy day. And as always, my friend, pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you when